Okay, let's move on with the Candlekeep Mysteries and look at the first little adventure they have right here. So this first one's called The Joy of Extradimensional Spaces. So we've got this Joy of Extradimensional Spaces was donated to Candlekeep by the mage Fistandia following her disappearance. So in her will, she leaves her collection to the library, right, where she evidently spent a lot of time. Well, it tells you in here that in arcane shorthand, she details how she created a permanent Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion spell and records the command word to open the mansion's doorway. But the problem is nobody knows where the doorway is at. So they got the command word, but you don't know where to use it at. So it looks like another fella comes in here, the sage, looks like Matris maybe is his name, an expert in the application and removal of curses. Upon arrival at Candlekeep to further his expertise, he casts the spell Detect Magic. I guess he just wanders around doing this. I guess they want you to think it's just something he always does. And in doing so, he accidentally finds this gateway. So, of course, he goes in through the gateway right here. So they tell you here, forgetting about his earlier purpose, he goes through the gateway right here, and I guess the guy disappears, right? So they tell you here that Fistandia requested the room that he was in each time she visited the keep, and they also turned up mysterious reports that she would disappear for weeks at a time. Well, how somebody didn't figure out that's where the gateway was at was a good question right there. Looks like that'd have been the obvious place if that's where she spent all her time, but we won't look too hard at that right there. So finding the book. Remember, all these little adventures revolve around finding a book. So you got to have this right here. So they give the DM some ideas. Maybe they've come to town seeking to remove a curse. Maybe it's one of the players' hometowns, whatever you want to do. They give you some other options for however the DM wants to get this going. That's good. Make up your own if you like. So tied to the Joy of Extradimensional Spaces are two mysteries, right? So this book's got two mysteries associated with it. The first is the whereabouts of the missing mage Matris, right? He obviously found the doorway, the portal right there, said the command word, went in, and he's gone. So I guess he doesn't know how to get out. But let's see what else we got. The characters can resolve this question by opening the portal to the mansion. The larger mystery, however, is how to escape once you get inside. So just like this Matris guy here, finding the little gateway and getting in is one thing, but getting out looks like it's going to be the real test. So the Joy of Extradimensional Spaces is a heavy bound tome that you see it right over here. And anybody that rolls a DC 12 intel check or better will recognize Mordenkainen right there. And of course, a lot of people have heard his name and may even recognize the picture regardless if anybody's shown it right there. So opening the portal. Once the characters are shown into the private room assigned to Matris, they find it unoccupied. Only the sage's personal effects and a handful of books remain. This book, The Joy of Extradimensional Spaces, is open to the pages with Fistandia's handwritten notes. A character that rolls a DC 13 intel check is able to decipher the shorthand and find the command word scepter. That'll open the doorway right there. Once the command word is spoken, shimmering translucent doors appear. They step through, and they'll start off on a map we see a little bit further along at area M1. So that's Mansion Room 1 right there. So here's the mansion. They give you some background right here. Let's see, the structure's open, stone blocks, hardwood floors, bedroom, study, trophy room, dining room, so on down the line. There's carpets everywhere, brass and bronze fixtures, doors of oak. So obviously a very nice place, illuminated by oil lamps. Outside, there's a swirling, I guess it's like a mist, miasma, that hovers 20 feet from the building on all sides. And if anybody goes out into it, every minute they gain one level of exhaustion. So that's going to tend to keep people out of it, but of course not going to do any permanent harm. They just get out of there. So puzzle books. Opening the portal from the inside is going to be the real trick. The mansion requires another command word, which Fistandia hid in the form of a puzzle. She created 7 books, each with a single gilded letter on the spine. When placed next to each other in the proper order, they will spell the command word liberty. So that's what they've got to speak to get out of this place. The books bear not only the lettered spines, but also the same image of Mordenkainen we saw before. And they also mentioned this little imp figurine. There's a little imp that's actually real, but it's been transformed into a statuette. So they tell you if anybody removes it from this magical mansion, that little thing comes right back to life right there. So they mention encounter locations here. So again, they mention the oil lamps, very nice place, and M1's where they appear in the foyer. And then there's a little hallway. So they tell you about the ceilings. There's a middle-aged man in gray robes right in front of them. So this is Matris, right? So this dude got in here and hasn't figured out the puzzle to get back out. So they tell you he's a sage. At first, he's surprised. He introduces himself, so it's not an attack here, and expresses his delight that they've opened the portal. He's been inside trying to find the command word for the last half hour. So he takes on a thoughtful expression, pauses, tapping his chin. The mansion must be a treasure trove of information. There's no telling what it holds. As an example, he shows the characters a card figurine of an imp. Again, he doesn't know. I guess it's a real one that he's found, and he's going to take it back. Well, good luck with that. Matris explains that he would dearly like to continue to explore the mansion's mysteries themselves, but he could be much more useful back in Candlekeep. Thanks to the research he conducted to find the mansion, he has the skills to keep the portal open from the other side. If the characters take this chance to explain their errand to him, he's willing to accompany them back to the village, which could be one of the places, could be cursed that got him in this to start with. So if they'll help him, he'll help them remove the curse, I believe is where they're going with that there. If the characters agree to explore the mansion, he steps through the double door leading back to the study room. When he does, the characters hear him shriek as the door slams shut, locking them inside the mansion. So Matris lets out the shriek as the imp figurine comes to life and attacks. So exits here. The foyer gives way to a long hallway that runs the length of the extra-dimensional mansion with several doors. All right, so they got some options right here as to where they want to go. So reading on, they got a patio right here, just flagstones and such. You can see the mist on the outside, not much there. There's the library right here. Tall shelves filled with books line the walls of this room. Two more shelves run through the middle with a 10-foot wide aisle. Several stacks of books are piled throughout the room. There are small reading desks also. The shelves contain books on Vistandia's favorite subjects, arcana, natural science, so on down the line. So they mention a book attack. So when you look at these piles of books, somebody might think maybe it's just mess left over, whatever, but one of them is a swarm of animated books. There you've got all the stats for it right over here to the side. As the characters move through the room, the swarm attacks. One of the 10-foot wide freestanding sections of bookshelves tries to push it over, knocks it over on the characters. So somebody's going to need a DC 15 dex saving throw to get away from this. Otherwise, they're going to be restrained as all this weight's on top of them. So a restrained creature character is going to need a DC 13 strength check to get out from under it. Looks like somebody might be able to do a DC 15 to lift it off of them too. Not much as far as treasure in this place. They mention a jeweled letter opener, 20 gold. Big deal there. Puzzle book. The puzzle book with the letter R on its spine. Remember, they've got to collect these books that spell liberty. So there's the R one on the spine right there. Any character with a passive wisdom perception score of 12 or higher notices the book. Might at least want to make sure somebody at least recognizes this first one. That way, at least the characters, the players, have a clue what they're doing here. What is their objective to get out of this place? So if somebody doesn't roll that one, might have to give that one to them. So moving on to the exercise room. This room contains a battered wooden mannequin and a weapon rack holding staffs and daggers, all lit. The floor is stained and scorched. At the far end, a broom hovers in the air. This room was where Vistandia practiced her martial and magical skills. The mannequin has numerous cuts and chips. The weapons are finely made. There's 4 daggers, so on down the line right there. So there's the artwork of the little animated books that would attack. All the little details you see in the stat block, of course, are given. We'll go over all these new creatures a little bit further along. But there's the stat block for the animated brooms. You know there might be some trouble with it. So they tell you the broom is animated. If left alone, it goes about its business cleaning the floors. Just ignores everybody. If a creature attempts to grab it or menace it in any way, it attacks. So there you got it right up above. Then we move on to the study. The entire far wall, floor-to-ceiling bookshelf. Even more books are resting here. And look at this. It got a black cat curled up in one of the chairs. The characters enter the room. The cat sits up, meows. If they feed it or pet it, make a DC 10 wisdom animal handling check, and it'll follow you around. That'll probably make them paranoid, wondering what's up with the cat right there. So if they don't pay the cat any attention, it waits around for a time, then leads towards the kitchen area. They spend 30 minutes investigating. They discover the following facts. Almost all the books were written by Fistandia. She was a powerful mage right here. Used to always come to Candlekeep. In exchange for her service and achievements, she was granted a permanent extra-dimensional mansion for her to reside in. So she was somebody special here. Fearful that a guest might become trapped, she hid the command word. So there's paintings. They tell you there's 3 different ones right here. They tell you there's a landscape, one of a Pegasus, and one of a unicorn. They tell you there's a secret door. Somebody with a DC 10 intel check might notice it right there. Puzzle book, the letter I puzzle book can be found here. So again, they got to collect all these to spell out liberty. M6, the kitchen right here. The aromas of cooking permeates the kitchen. A large iron stove is on a wall, so on down the line, tables, racks, so on, everything's clean. The kitchen is run by 2 homunculi. Looks like cumin and coriander are their names. They can't speak, but they do have, but these, or excuse me, most can't, but these have the ability to speak common. When the characters enter the room, they greet the arrivals in squeaky voices. You hear flapping wings. They bow low. How may we help you? Cook, clean, do anything else. So evidently they've probably been alone in here for a while, and they're looking for somebody at least to talk to or interact with in some way. So there's the mansion right here's room M1 as they come in. So there you can see the upper, middle, and lower levels. Nice, easy map to follow there. So the homunculi will provide any service right there. The duties are confined mostly to the kitchen and the dining room, but they're eager to help right there. They were created by Fistandia, obviously. Their master went away a long time ago, so they don't know much. They've been warned by their master not to touch any books. Let's see, she used to go to the planetarium and disappear for long periods of time, so that'll give the players a clue to maybe look there for something. Something keeps building piles of books in the library. They don't know what it is. And the imp that was summoned hasn't been seen in some time, so they don't know what happened to it. Look what else. In area M9, there's a few fairy dragons. They're a bit mischievous right there, but they're not looking to harm anybody. And again, they mention the cats right here. They talk about bowls painted with cats or filled with water, so I guess a little witch lady like cats there too. M7's the Pantry. A character who succeeds on a DC 15 intel check knows 2 vital facts about these homunculi in M6. The first is that a master can have only 1 at a time, and the second is that a homunculus dies when the master dies. So since they're still here, that tells them she's still alive somewhere. So the pantry's just got dry goods and such in it. Not much going on right there. So reading on, they go into the dining room right here. She got a large window, 6 chandeliers, chairs, tables, so on down the line. Got some tapestries, and look at this, a mimic chair. There's an odd number of chairs in the room, and one of them here is a mimic. It moved the real chair to the corner and took its place, hoping to capture any creature entering from the kitchen. It's been able to ambush only the occasional cat or fairy dragon, so it's in a weakened state. So notice you got 30 hit points and a DC 10 grapple to escape. Treasure, not much, a little silverware, 20 gold. Arboretum right here. All right, so here's where you find the 2 invisible fairy dragons. And again, they're really just mischievous right here, not really looking to hurt anybody. They tell you that they're always giggling and I guess acting crazy. They stay invisible right here. Treasure, there's a couple of glowing orbs, drift globes, give you some light and float around right there. Not much going on. They tell you there's stairs at M10. There's a suit of armor holding a long sword pointing down. Above the armor is a trap door. So if somebody right here has a DC 15 strength check, they can get access to the room below from this area right here. Then there's a laboratory at M11, right? If you got a lab, you got all kinds of stuff in here. Skulls, bones, mounted animals, rocks, minerals, dried plants, jars of things, who knows? So they tell you there's a star map. The map on the wall is the solution to the Planetarium puzzle in M12. Most of the stars are represented by dots or circles, but the 5 most prominent stars are rendered as blazing silver suns. Those are the 5 bright stars to which the telescopes must be pointed to open the door to M13. So they got to somehow figure out that these stars that are really bright on this map are what the telescopes have to be pointed at. The puzzle book with the letter T on its spine is in the middle table. So on to this planetarium that's next right here. They give just a little description. But again, they've got to figure out that they've got to point these telescopes in the right direction. So the room is detailed and convincing illusion of a grassy knoll on a moonless night, and so on down the line. So again, they can determine the shape and size of the actual space and room just by exploring and walking around. Just got an illusion of vision right there and not anything more. If the characters try to manipulate the telescopes, they find that it's easy to change the orientation. So with the puzzle right here, to open the secret door to area M13, in order to solve the puzzle, the 5 telescopes must be pointed into the sky at the 5 brightest stars, which were found on the map in M11. So we just mentioned that right there. The light of the stars is focused, when they do this, through them onto the crystal ball and refracted to illuminate a secret door going over here to M13. So when they solve the puzzle, all those telescopes, I guess, shine a light onto that crystal ball. Reminds me of Indiana Jones where he used the map room, something like that right there. The chain library here. So you got a bunch of books which are chained down. So obviously these must be the important ones right here. So it tells you filled with books with iron covers attached to chains which secure them to the shelves in the library. This library has been enchanted to be jealously possessive of its contents. It attacks any creature that comes within its reach. So here we got an animated, chained library. They come up with some wild stuff here. Vistandia's most treasured knowledge is kept here. These are rare tomes. So look at right here what we've got. So you can see the chains on the books. And look, there's Mordenkainen right there on the cover of that one, laid right there out front. So there's the animated chain library at 45 hit points, so fairly durable right there. So reading on from there, treasure, that if the characters defeat the library, one of its books breaks free with a length of chain still attached, and it'll function as a +1 flail. How in the world would they ever realize that thing could be used in that way? But the puzzle book with the letter L is found here too. Then you got the trophy room, and they tell you there's lots of trophy heads, a stag, a wolf, hellhound, black dragon, so on down the line right there. But notice there are swords in the description. 2 flying swords in this room. The puzzle book with the letter Y is found in this area right here. So then there's a bedroom. They tell you when they enter, the cat that's found in this room jumps and stretches, that they feed it, do a DC 10 wisdom animal handling check, it follows them about, and so on down the line. Puzzle book with the letter E can be found here. They're probably going to be wondering what's up with the cats. They don't really seem to do anything. And then there's a balcony, and then there's an alchemical lab. So the books here cover chemical science and alchemy. Take anybody with a DC 13 intel check determines the goal of the research was to transmute materials into gold. That's what alchemy is all about right there. One time people were trying to figure out if you could change lead into gold. I guess they thought they were similar in some way and could do that. So they tell you there's 4 clay figures here. A character makes a successful DC 13 intel check can tell that these are figures used for creating the homunculi. So this must have been where they were made. So look at that. There's some potions, or what is this, reagents worth about 50 gold, and a potion of healing in here. And the puzzle book with the letter B. Of course, they ought to be trying to put these books together. They might even discover what the word is before they have all the books eventually. They mention in this summoning room, there's a warty toad. This is actually a quasit. It waits for a creature to approach and then attacks. Next, we have the Preserved Menagerie. In this room right here, we've got smells of alcohol and brine, glass vessels, large and small, all over the place. One 4-foot-tall container is missing its lid and has no occupant. So that tells them something's out right there. So they tell you the collection includes a cockatrice, a flump, a giant fire beetle, so on down the line, and a slod tadpole has gotten out of its jars. So that could be trouble right there. So reading on, they talk about there are also 4 severed hands in these jars. They let them out, they become crawling claws, which could attack right there. And there they mention assembling the books. Again, they got to put the letters together to spell liberty. If they just write them down, they'll probably tear them out and go to mixing them around like somebody trying to do a crossword puzzle. I bet they'll figure that out pretty quick. It's not a difficult word and relatively short. So once the characters have recovered all the books, they should be able to guess the command word. If they do, a pulse of power ripples through the mansion as the double door in area M1 swings open, forming a portal that leads back to the study room in Candlekeep right there. So in conclusion right here, when the characters return to the study room in Candlekeep, they find Matrice's body sprawled on the floor and the imp figurine missing. Well, they ought to figure out what's going on now. When the imp was taken from the mansion, the enchantment binding it ended, allowing it to sting and kill Matrice there. The imp is now invisible and hiding in a corner. It attacks the first creature that exits the mansion. If the characters defeat the imp, it disappears in a cloud of black smoke. Any treasure, books, specimens, or weapons the characters acquired in the mansion remain in their possession. Anything else taken evaporates into smoke as they pass through the doorway. And they mention further adventures right here. Again, if they were sent here to remove a curse from a village, well, they might try to continue with that right there. It says they might need to undertake new quests to earn money to have Matrice raised from the dead so he could remove the curse. Whatever you want right there. So you can see this first adventure is really all about solving a puzzle. Again, know your group. If they're a hack and slash type, they may not care for this. Those that are more the role-playing and solving puzzles would probably enjoy it. So there's our first adventure in Candlekeep. We'll look at the others soon enough. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.